Hello, everyone, and here we have a new story. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics and the stories you're interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail, broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published once every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello, I want to tell you my story. I met my wife on a dating site. At that time, I was 26 years old and my wife was 34 years old. We were both at the stage of breaking up a previous relationship. My wife's ex-husband is a very powerful man. My wife lived with him like in a fairy tale on full provision. But my wife was his mistress. He had a family who lived in another city. After the breakup of their relationship, he took away everything from my wife. The only thing my wife has left is an apartment. Love broke out between us and we spent days and nights together. 2 months later, we started living together. After 7 months of our relationship, we got married. It was the first official marriage for both of us. I must say that my wife has a son who is 15 years old. My wife gave birth to a son from a guy who was in the military. This guy moved to another country and my wife didn't follow him. He did not communicate with his son and never saw him. The character of my wife's son is very difficult. She spoiled him very much. I tried to find a common language with him and thank God I found it. After a while, he accepted me as his own. I worked in a large company as the head of the sales department. I earned very good money. My wife also worked. We often went to restaurants, movies, parties, and so on. We also gave each other expensive gifts. After 9 months, our common son was born and the real hell began. The fact is that my wife is from a large family. She has 2 sisters and 2 brothers. They all lived not far from us. That's why they came to visit us every week. In general, we were never alone at home. It wasn't so stressful until we had a small child. But after the baby was born, I asked my wife to explain to my relatives that they did not need to come to us for a while. But my wife was afraid to offend her relatives. Moreover, 2 weeks after the birth of our son, my wife's nephew came to enter the institute. Naturally, he lived with us. My wife was very tired because she had to look after 3 children. At the same time, she cooked and kept order in the house. In general, she often broke down from fatigue. I couldn't help her because I was working late. In general, when I returned home from work, we had scandals. After a while, my wife's nephew went to university and went home. Everything seemed to be fine with us, but after a while, he came to study and naturally came back to us. But he said it was temporary until he found an apartment. A week has passed and my wife's nephew naturally wasn't looking for anything. My wife was very angry. My wife's sister did not help her son find an apartment. She went to California and went about her life. She didn't care about her son. I say, let me talk to your sister about it. My wife categorically did not want this. She told me that I could become enemy number 1. I got tired of all this and found him a place to live on my own. I helped him move into a rented apartment. After a while, my wife's sister arrived and made claims to me that the housing I found was bad. I couldn't stand it and told her everything I thought. From that moment, the first serious conflicts began. After the birth of the child, my wife did not work. I worked alone and supported the whole family. The eldest son was not deprived of anything. He was like my own. After a while, there comes a crisis and financial problems in our family. There was only enough money to pay for the loan and buy groceries. I started working overtime almost 7 days a week. My wife makes scandals even for no reason. In general, I get very depressed. A year later, the eldest son entered the university, but the tuition was paid. At the same time, my wife managed to save money and save $40,000. We decide that she will study to be a manicure master and will earn extra money at home. At the very beginning, after training, my wife did not have any clients, but after a while, customers appeared. It became easier for us. This money went to my son's education. We often quarreled, but not critically. The main discord in our relationship arose after the eldest son passed for a driver's license. He asked me to arrange insurance for him because he had no experience. Since there was a large overpayment of money, I refused him. After that, he changed his attitude towards me by 360 degrees. He ignored me and didn't even greet me. Apparently, he started selling his mother that I was bad and so on. My wife's sister told her the same thing. And so in the 11th year of our marriage, my wife says she is leaning towards divorce. It was a shock to me. I didn't expect her to do this to me. 3 months later, we divorced and I went to live with my parents. But I came to them every day and spent time with my son. I took him to kindergarten and back. The relationship with my wife was good. We all went to the park together and celebrated all the holidays together. We had sex almost every time we met. I changed my job and lost 30 kilograms. In general, everything was fine despite the divorce. We have lived in such an atmosphere for a little over a year. But she didn't want to live together again and rebuild our family. After a while, I moved into a rented apartment and told my wife to decide if we would be together or if I would let her go and arrange my personal life. My wife decided that it was better for us to be together and told me to come back to them. For the first 3 years, everything was fine and we lived like in paradise. We flew to Florida every year with the whole family. You're with the whole family. The eldest son got married and had a daughter. They lived in his wife's apartment, but they were in our house almost all the time. My wife hung around them like a housekeeper. I didn't like it and we quarreled about it. But on the whole, everything was fine. After a while, my wife went to fitness. I can't understand why she made such a decision. She had a good figure and there was no need to exercise. One day we agreed that I would pick her up after training. I call her. She doesn't answer the phone. After a while, she arrived home. I'm asking, why didn't you pick up the phone? She replies that she was on the bus and didn't hear my call. Why didn't she call me, according to her, so as not to bother me? But I wasn't too worried about it because I trusted her completely. I've never been jealous of my wife and have never carried out any checks. But my wife's behavior has become very strange. My wife often began to go somewhere. According to her, she spent time with her sister. After a while, we went to her sister's country house to celebrate Christmas. We had a very good time, but in January, my wife told me again that we should break up. My wife started making scandals every day and asked me when I would move out of her house. This lasted until March, and I decided that I needed to move out for a while. But one day, my wife went to the store and left her mobile phone on the table. I decided to make myself a coffee and heard a sound. It was the sound of an incoming message on social media. And all the time that we were together, I never checked my wife's phone. This time, my intuition told me the opposite. I came across a correspondence with her lover. He wrote to my wife that he misses her, loves her, and so on. I was completely at a loss. It was like being doused with boiling water. At that time, my wife returned home and I asked what was the matter. She replied to me that she had written these messages to herself so that I can see them and get away from her as quickly as possible. Everything was boiling inside me and I got very drunk. I made a drunken row and left the house. But my heart hurt a lot because my wife started to ruin our relationship for some reason. She did it on purpose. I decided to play detective and follow my wife. On the 1st of April, I took my son to my place for the night. But in fact, I took him to my parents and went to my wife. In general, I parked the car near the house and watched. After a while, my wife came out and got into the car that was parked next to the house. At that moment, I felt a lump in my throat. I quickly headed towards this car. I walk up to this car and see my wife kissing another guy. For 5 minutes, I watched him touch my wife between her legs. I watched him touch my wife between her legs. Then they saw me and out of fright, this guy closed all the doors in the car. I started knocking out the windshield. They almost hit me and drove away. My wife didn't even get out of the car. Most likely, they were very scared. The next day, I brought my son to her, and we had a serious conversation. My wife cried and swore that this was her first meeting. She says that when we were together, she didn't cheat on me. But I have a very good memory for people's faces. It was a guy my wife corresponded with on social media. She said that the love between us had passed and she had cooled down to me, that we should stop communicating. She also said that I didn't pay attention to her. In general, everything is banal, like everyone else's. As a result, I live alone and found a new girlfriend. I do not forget my sons and help them financially. I often spend time with my children. The funny thing is, as soon as everything got better in my personal life, my ex-wife started calling me and asking for forgiveness in order to get everything back. She cries and says she made a mistake. Maybe her lover left her. I do not know. But I won't forgive her after all I've been through. I'm doing well, and a new life is starting. If you like the story, give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, so as not to miss new videos. Now let's move on to the opinion of the author of the channel. The opinion of the author of the channel. According to tradition, I want to wish our hero strength and patience. After listening to your story, I was not surprised. You can watch many similar stories on my channel. And the fact that your wife saw that you no longer needed her and your life began to improve. After that, she started running and begging for forgiveness. There's nothing strange here. It's psychology. The girl needs to understand that you don't need her. Until the girl sees this, she will be the queen. The girl will enjoy your suffering. You made the right choice. Keep building a new life and don't look back. Your wife has already regretted her action. In any case, do not go back to the past if you do not want to feel like hell. Be confident in yourself and strive for new heights. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.